Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with the movie for What If Naruto Was Muzon's Reincarnation. So the parts for this movie were spread out more than usual, so hopefully there aren't any continuity errors. I tried my best to make sure there aren't any. But other than that, the usual, make sure to check out the links in the description. We've got the Discord server down there, and you guys can cop some dope anime merch, but I'll get into that later on into the video. And with that all said, let's just get right into the what if. So we start the story off after the Nine Tails attack, and the main difference between this and canon is Naruto in this, after the Nine Tails was sealed within him, Naruto was very sick due to the whole sealing process, because the tail beast took so much energy to be sealed. Naruto, he was very weak from it. Naruto, he couldn't do many of the things that kids his age would be able to. Well, Naruto, he's still a child, so after this, Naruto, Hiruzen took Naruto and put him in a hospital so he wouldn't die. And Naruto basically lived off his infancy in the hospital. So for the year that Naruto was in the hospital, he was actually taking really good care of. Hiruzen made sure that the nurses and doctors there, well, really took care of Naruto. Because right now they still don't know that Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. So after about 2 years in the hospital, Naruto is 2 years old now. He's taken in by Hiruzen, who thinks he can take care of Naruto. But, I mean, him being the Hokage, like him coming out of retirement, him becoming the Hokage, and Naruto being very sick. When I mean sick, Naruto could barely walk, his bones could break easily, and his vision wasn't very good. So instead of getting someone to take care of Naruto like a normal person, after only 3 years of taking care of Naruto, Hiruzen just gave him his own house, still very sick. So Hiruzen had to bring not money to him like every month. He would bring like food and other essential items like water. So Naruto is basically bedbound for most of his life. It's like the older he gets, the worse and worse his condition becomes. So 4 months into living by himself, Naruto got up one morning and reached over to the table and starts preparing ramen. Like, Naruto had to have a table like right next to his bed because he just couldn't get up. So after eating the ramen and after heating up the ramen and eating it, Naruto just went back to lie down because that's really all he could do. Naruto didn't do much. He just laid there wondering why this had to happen to him. Why was his life a living torture? So Naruto looked over to the other side of the bed and saw a plush toy staring at him. The toy was a demon. A villager, quote unquote, gifted it to Naruto. And the reason I put it in quotes is, anything depicting evil figures is seen as bad luck in the Leaf Village, sort of like having a statue of Lucifer or something. But for Naruto, this was the only thing that stayed by his side for these months that he's been alone. I mean, he only sees Hiruzen now and then, so this plush is the only real connection that he has. So fast forward another 6 months, and this just continues on. And Hiruzen walks into Naruto's room, like one of the months he comes to drop off stuff. So he brings ramen, packs water bottles, some sweets even, and some other stuff. And before he leaves, Hiruzen looks at Naruto laying in his bed in the dark and hugging tightly onto the toy. And Hiruzen wanted to hate Naruto because, I mean, the whole reason he set him to live by himself is he wanted really revenge for what happened to his wife. Because Hiruzen sees Naruto as the cause of it. Well, it really wasn't. Not even the Nine Tails was the cause of it. It was actually Obito. But that's what Hiruzen thinks. He wants to get revenge for his wife's death. So that's why he sent him off to live by his own, even knowing his condition. And Hiruzen, he just couldn't hold it in. Like a single tear ran down his face, but he quickly turned around and walked out, wiping it away. And instead of going to the Hokage's mansion, Hiruzen went to the same hospital that Naruto grew up in. And you know, the people there, they now have different feelings towards Naruto because, I mean, Danzo brought the news that Naruto was the Jinchuriki. So they all were like, oh, did we really have to take care of that demon? So Hiruzen, like I said, he went to the hospital and made arrangements for Naruto to stay there again to try and find a cure for Naruto to recover from this. I mean, he doesn't know if it's a disease, a virus, like he really doesn't know what Naruto is suffering against. So later that day, Hiruzen enlisted Anbu to help carry Naruto to the hospital where he stayed and got treatment, but the entire night they worked and every medicine they could throw at Naruto, just nothing worked. And Hiruzen was there the entire time, that's why no one was doing any funny business. So when Hiruzen left, because I mean they were making no headroom, as instructed by him, the medical ninja, you know, they had to do everything they could to help Naruto. So one of the doctors specially assigned to Naruto, we'll call him Dr. Koro. And Koro went to Naruto's room at night and saw how weak and frail he was and smiled. And you see, Koro's entire family was killed by the Ninetales, well, in the Ninetales attack. And now he wants his revenge. So for the next month, Koro tries poisoning Naruto with everything he knows can kill someone, but Naruto, he keeps drinking all the medicine, quote unquote medicine Koro is giving him, and Naruto, he's completely fine. Naruto, like, Koro just couldn't explain it. Like, he's used these before to kill people, but it doesn't affect Naruto. I mean, at worst, Naruto might like catch the cold, but that's it. But Koro, he tries and tries, but nothing is working. So he starts to do his own research and came across a legendary flower that produces dangerous toxins. And the plant, you know, it's really rare. People in recent history haven't even found it. But it's said that the amount of toxins that's in the plant, other trees and plants and well whatever that grows around it, they die out. And after cutting off the flower, it exposes the air to its toxins and kills anything that inhales it, like animals and even ninjas. So Koro took the necessary precautions, wearing a whole suit, and went out searching. And I mean, it was not easy to find. As I said, no one has found it in the last like 100 years. So all Koro had was the visions of his dead wife and daughter to keep him going. And finally, after 3 months of searching, he finds it. So he harvests the flower and brings it to his lab and starts experimenting on it, trying to extract the poison. And the best method he came up with was just to grind the flower down and then mix it in with just water and pretend it was some medicine. So Koro, having his secret concoction, he takes it to Naruto. So he walks into his room and Naruto, he's looking the worst than ever, and he sees Dr. Koro and says, "Dr. Koro, I don't think I'll be able to make it." And Koro, he sounds enthusiastic. He says, "Don't worry, Naruto, I have the medicine. This is going to cure you 100%. So this is what Naruto is banking on to basically save his life, because I mentioned it, the sealing of the Ninetales, that's what's weakening Naruto, because the seal works a bit differently than canon, because this Ninetales is a massive beast. It's not just going to be chilling there, it's going to be trying to attack Naruto, and that's exactly what it's doing, attacking him from the inside. So Naruto, as soon as he gets this medicine from Dr. Koro, he quickly drinks it, and Dr. Koro asks, "Do you feel anything?" And Naruto says no. And Koro is like punching the air right now, but he calmly says, "No worries, I'll check on you tomorrow and you should be alright." So when he goes to walk out, Naruto, he's starting to feel a bit different. He can actually clench his fist without any pain. And speaking of pain, he doesn't feel much pain because even lying down was painful. So he was about to say, "Dr. Koro, it worked," but Naruto's mind went completely blank. And he pounced on Koro, shoving his nails into his neck, and Koro dropped to the ground, squirming in pain. So quickly, I want to take a quick break. For those who don't know the origins of Muzan's powers, this is basically how it went. He was really sick and he enlisted a doctor to make him some medicine, and that doctor used this random flower, and yeah, that's how Muzan was born. So anyways, Koro is like squirming on the ground and Naruto watches and he finally comes back to his senses, and then Koro stops and he looks very different. He looks demonic. So Koro is looking down at his hands and his claws and he's saying, "What did you do to me?" But Naruto, his eyes glow red and said, "Listen to what I say." And Naruto, he's subconsciously using one of Muzan's abilities, and that is mind control, mind controlling the people he's turned into demons. So Muzan, Naruto, he tells Koro that he should just play it natural and act as if this all never happened. So just like that, Koro, he returns to his usual self and Naruto goes and lies down in the bed. So Koro goes to the Hokage's office and told him that he finally found the cure for Naruto's ailment and he should be able to get out of the hospital in like a day, like tomorrow. And Hiruzen, he was surprised. I mean, he thought maybe he would get a message when this medicine was in development or something, but it was all so sudden. But I mean, he was happy, he was glad that Naruto could finally become a ninja and follow in his father's footsteps. So after that conversation, Hiruzen, he went to the hospital to meet with Naruto before he got out, and he sees Naruto and he looks a lot better. Like before, Naruto, his cheeks were sunken in and he was really skinny, but now Naruto, he looks like decently healthy. So Hiruzen starts to talk to Naruto, asking, I mean, how was, the whole process like, and Naruto just said he had to drink some medicine. And this, Hiruzen was amazed, really. So after all of that, the next day rolls around and Naruto finally leaves the hospital. But the day that he was in the hospital, like the day before, Naruto realized that the sun burns his skin. Like the light came through one of the windows and it landed on his arm and it started burning. So Naruto, he left the hospital in the night and now he has to figure out some way to overcome this weakness because he can't be a ninja and have a weakness to sunlight. So Naruto stays cooped up in his house thinking about it, and when Hiruzen comes over, he unlocks Naruto's door since he's really been over there so many times. He has the key and he looks around and sees sheets covering the windows. It's almost pitch black in the room. And Hiruzen walks in and says, "Naruto, where are you?" And from behind Hiruzen, Naruto creeps over him like a dark figure. And Hiruzen senses something and turns around, but it was a false alarm. Then when he turns back around, Naruto was in front of him with his blood red eyes and shoved his nails into Hiruzen's chest. And this started infusing his blood into Hiruzen's body, turning Hiruzen into a demon. After this, Naruto instructed Hiruzen to go back to his regular Hokage duties, and Naruto looks at Hiruzen's blood on his hand and smiles. He thinks the world will be at his fingertips. So a year passes and Naruto is now 8 years old, making him eligible to join the academy, but the biggest hurdle for Naruto right now is the sun. But Naruto has a plan. He'll use chakra to coat his skin to protect him, and yes, this would require a lot, like an intense amount of chakra control, but that's exactly what Naruto has been doing strictly for the past year. Chakra control training. If canon Naruto, who is like really dumb and trash with chakra control, could climb a tree in like what, a day, then a intelligent, stronger Naruto could do a lot in a year. So before Naruto goes to the academy, he goes to a clothing store to get that Muzon drip. And he gets the usual, the white suit pants, a suit jacket with a tie, and with some formal shoes, but he doesn't get the signature hat just yet. That's his final form to become the smooth criminal, so I'll hold off on that for now. So Naruto, he goes to the academy and walks into class, and well, no one recognizes him, which is obvious since he spends most, if not all of his life indoors. So Naruto's hairstyle also would be different. And, you know, since his spiky hair would sort of represent his personality being really bubbly and hyperactive, Naruto's hair would more resemble Mikey from Tokyo Revengers. So Naruto walks to the back of the class and gets a seat beside one of the windows, and a lot of the girls in the class are wondering who is this in a flirtish way, and most can't keep their eyes off Naruto. And Sasuke, he's feeling, you know, like Naruto is taking over his territory. And when Naruto walks past here, Sasuke, he thinks he isn't even that cool. So Eruka, he finally comes into class and he looks over the group, and like he's pretty happy with the amount of people that are in his class. So Eruka begins the class and says like he's Eruka and he'll be their sensei for their entire time in the academy. So they're all excited. They finally start their journey to become ninjas. It was just yesterday they were like playing ninjas with paper ninja stars, but now they're the real deal. So Eruka, he starts the usual teaching. It's really not anything different than what like me and you are used to, like basic math, you know, Japanese, and they would also be learning ninja history. So instead of regular world history, they will learn ninja history. So at lunch, Naruto, he is just chilling by himself, and he brought some ramen to eat because that's really all Naruto survives off of. He really doesn't have to eat, but Naruto, he wants to, you know, be normal, fit in, so he does. And Naruto, he's there eating his ramen, and Sakura and Ino come up to his table and say, oh, you're eating something unhealthy, we brought, you know, extra lunch. And they try sharing with Naruto. They take their chopsticks and shove it in Naruto's mouth, and he's just eating it because, hey, bro, free food. So after that, Sasuke, he's like watching the entire time, and he's stuffing the food in his mouth, like really angry, because he doesn't want to admit it, but he feels threatened by Naruto. Like he feels that Naruto is better than him. I mean, it is true, but Sasuke doesn't want to admit it. So at the end of lunch, Eruka, he comes into class and tells the students that he has a short evaluation for them. This will be used to track their progress as they go into higher grades in the academy. So he takes them outside, and this time there is no, you know, fighting. It's just personal physical fitness. So they do laps until they collapse. Laps collapse. Aha, rhymes, yes sir. So they do laps until they collapse, and Naruto, he doesn't stop. Like Eruka has to stop him because Naruto, he would go on and on and on because his stamina is way more vast than any of the students there. Even Eruka himself, even every ninja in the village. So Naruto, he stops on his 25th lap, and everyone is impressed. People are on the ground dying after their 5th one. So Eruka, he's like, wow, that's incredible, Naruto. But Naruto, he just keeps to himself and goes to where Eruka instructs them. So the next place, Eruka has them do some accuracy training with Kunai. And this, I wouldn't say Muzon has a specific ability that would help with this, but he does have enhanced perception, so he can see a lot better. So I feel like with this, Muzon would be pretty good at ninja, star, and kunai throwing. And throughout all of these tests, Sasuke is slowly realizing that all the students aren't even paying him any attention. Sasuke used to be the center of attention, but with the arrival of Naruto, Sasuke, he's just a background character, but he doesn't want that. So he's gonna show Naruto who's truly the strongest. So after all the tests are finished up and Eruka says, you know, they can go home, he really doesn't have anything else to give them, Sasuke, he comes up to Naruto, and, you know, Naruto's back is turned, and Sasuke pushes him. And all the students are watching, and they're like, ooh, you know, the stuff that kids do. So Naruto, he turns around, and he smiles. And people are wondering, is he a psychopath who smiles after being attacked from, you know, their blind spot? I mean, he wasn't really attacked, but still pushed. But no one smiles after that. So people are wondering, okay, he must be a menace. So Naruto, he says, so what's your problem? And Sasuke says, I'm gonna show you who's the boss around here. And he rushes Naruto and throws a punch, but Naruto easily blocks this with his hand and counters by punching Sasuke in the side of his jaw. And this drops Sasuke to the ground, almost leaving him unconscious. And everyone is like, damn, like they are surprised by Naruto's strength, and they start, they start hyping up the fight. So they all make a circle around Naruto and Sasuke slowly gets up, wiping the blood from his nose, and he's like, okay, I'm not gonna look stupid in front of everyone. So he tries throwing another punch, but Naruto, he throws a punch as well, and both their fists meet, but Naruto easily overpowers Sasuke, and this breaks his wrist, and Sasuke's like arm just almost goes limp. I mean, it isn't limp because his wrist is the only thing that broke, but the pain that shot through his arm, that's what made it limp. And Sasuke, he's screaming in pain, and everyone's seeing him act like some girl or something, like a crybaby, but in actuality this legitimately really hurts. So everyone, they're watching this complete brutal attack on Sasuke, and they are surprised by Naruto's strength. So after all of this, Eruka, he comes back outside and he sees everyone crowding around, and he says, break it up, and he goes inside the middle and sees Sasuke on the ground while Naruto's standing over him. And Eruka grabs Naruto's arm and gets him to back up from Sasuke, and he says, what are you two doing? And Naruto just says, I was just teaching him a lesson. And Eruka, he was not having this, so he sends Naruto off to the ninja equivalent of detention. I don't really know what that would be. Maybe he does some, I don't know, some missions? I don't know, some like useless missions like having people cross the road. That's really the only thing I could think of. So after that, each year, these assessments are taken to track their progress, and Naruto's progress is just a sort of flat line because he does the same every single year. Like each year he does 26 laps. It's the same thing every time. And Eruka, he's looking at this and he's even more impressed because, I mean, he doesn't know what's more impressive, increasing slowly over time or getting the exact same marks. I mean, at least, he's consistent. So during Naruto's 5 years in the academy, he would gain a lot of respect among his peers. Everyone would see him as the strongest in the class without a doubt. And a lot of the girls in class do like Naruto. They just don't know how to approach him, really. But Naruto, he's just always chilling in the back of the class, enjoying himself and taking in all of the information he's getting from the academy, because Naruto in this is really intelligent with Muzan's abilities. But in the background, apart from the academy, Naruto has been growing his army of demons, having making random villagers demons, giving them powers and instructing them to just go out to different lands, take note of everything around the Leaf Village, because Naruto's ultimate goal is to use his power of mind control to control the entire world. So last time we left off with Naruto slowly approaching his graduation date in the academy, but this isn't stopping him from expanding his control of mainly everyone around him. Naruto goes to the Hokage's office, but when he enters the building, the lady who normally sits at the front to book people who want to see Hiruzen, she writes down their names and give them to Hiruzen, and he sees when he can, slots them in to see him. And this lady stops Naruto and says, "Excuse me, Lord Hokage isn't seeing anyone right now." And Naruto stops and just stares at this lady menacingly. And Naruto's killing intent alone made her so scared that she froze, and she isn't a ninja, so this is very effective. And Naruto just keeps walking, and when he made it to Hiruzen's office, Naruto walked in, and when he sees Hiruzen, he used his telepathy and said, "Send your Anbu out, I have something private to talk to you about." So Hiruzen said out loud, "Anbu, leave." and 4 Anbu members drop from the ceiling and walk out of the room. Naruto, now having some privacy, walked up to Hiruzen's desk and said, "What have my team gathered?" And Hiruzen began to list out everything that his team has gathered, the team being demons under Naruto's control. Hiruzen says, "The land of Cloud is gathering ninjas to take on samurai to the north. No threat to the land of fire. And the land of sand politically is unstable, but still no threat to the land of fire. The fire daimyo, I don't know, it's daimyo, I guess, that's how it looks. He will be visiting soon to get an update on the current state of the leaf." So Naruto thought for a second and said, "I might visit the sand to take advantage, place a mole in their council." And Naruto said, "Have Ren waiting at the gate." Ren is just the name of a random villager that Naruto made into a demon. So before Naruto left, he turned back to Hiruzen and said, "Wait, before I forget." And Naruto connects to Hiruzen telepathically and begins going through his memories, seeing everything that he's been through. Luckily, Naruto's mind could keep up, so he doesn't completely pass out. He just gets a bit weak. So with that, Naruto leaves, and with Ren, they head to the Sand Village. While traveling, Naruto shapeshifts himself into an older looking man, sort of in his mid-20s. So like normal, it takes 3 days to get to the leaf. And yeah, I know he's like missing school, like in the academy, but Naruto just has Hiruzen tell Eruka some story about why he can't make it. And I mean, it's the Hokage, who's not gonna believe him. Anyways, Ren and Naruto make it to the Sand Village and sneak in, and they lie in wait for someone from the council to appear. Meanwhile, like they're waiting, Naruto turns random sand civilians into demons, thinking it will become useful later on. But eventually, they get who they were looking for. In the dead of night, Yura appeared walking outside of the Sans version of the Hokage's mansion. And the name might not seem familiar to most of you guys, but it's the same guy that Itachi used in place of himself while he was fighting Team 7 and he ended up dying. But Yura is a trusted advisor of Tsunagakure's council, so he's the perfect target. Naruto and Ren corner Yura, and Naruto stands in front of him and says, "You'll be useful." And Yura is confused and tries pulling out a kunai, but Ren grabs his hand and Naruto shoves his nail into Yura, transferring his blood, turning him into a demon. And Naruto looks Yura in the eyes and says, "Gather as much information as you can and send a letter to Hiruzen Sarutobi every month." Yura nods and goes back to his post. It was still nighttime, so Naruto and Ren easily snuck out and returned to the village within another 3 days. Naruto made it back, and he actually made it back just in time to catch his graduation exam in full swing. He enters the class and everyone is they already started their test, so Naruto quietly went to his seat to start. Naruto, he is 1000 IQ, so whatever test they throw at Naruto, he can easily ace it. So after that, Eruka, he goes around and collects all the papers, and then once he has them in a stack, he puts it on his desk and hands it to Mizuki, who came over to help him with coordinating the entire exams. And Mizuki, he gets the papers and goes off to mark everything. So Eruka, using this free time, he takes everyone outside to get a more hands-on graduation exams. In previous years, he would just have them do some basic jutsu like shadow clones or like transformation. But Eruka, he actually wants to see what these guys can do in the field as an actual ninja. So he takes them outside and have them do sort of a similar thing to what they did in their first ever day in the academy, but the main difference is they'll be fighting, and it will be times 10. It will be really hard. So Eruka, he has everyone line up and of course does the easy stuff first, like accuracy training, and then he does something a bit different. Eruka has everyone go up against him. Eruka is thinking that, you know, he's a Chunin and none of them aren't even Genin, so he'll be able to take them all. Which would be true, but then there's Naruto, so I mean, he's gonna have to learn that the hard way. So Eruka has everyone come up one by one, and if they can knock him over, imagine like boxing rules where if anything other than your feet touches the ground, then that's a knockdown. So say someone makes him take a knee or has his hand touch the ground, then well, the academy student wins. So after explaining all of this, Eruka then says first up Kiba, and Kiba at this point doesn't know any of his clan abilities like Man Beast transformation, so this is an easy match for Eruka. After was Shikamaru, Hinata, Ino, Sakura, and some other background characters, but then the main event, Eruka versus Naruto. So Naruto walks into the little ring area and Eruka is feeling himself, as in he's feeling good about, you know, his wins, cause no one has gotten him yet, so he feels pretty good. And Eruka says, you know, whenever you're ready, Naruto. So Naruto nods and runs at Eruka, but Eruka didn't expect Naruto to be running this fast. He went on guard trying to figure out how to dodge, but then Naruto's arms extended out like Mr. Fantastic, or if you don't know who that is, his arm extended out like Luffy and grabs Eruka and pulls him in, and with his other hand punches Eruka, sending him flying across the ground. And everyone was watching, and firstly they were confused how Naruto became Luffy. Like, One Piece is as popular as Makeout Paradise in this universe. And secondly, is Eruka okay? Because he got flung across the dirt like he isn't moving. So a group of students carry him to the nurse where, well, one of the medical ninjas at the academy, while girls started surrounding Naruto, but he managed to escape somehow. So while walking back home, since Eruka is out of commission because of someone, Naruto, he's hearing these whispers travel around the village about people going missing, and all that being left is like blood trails. And Naruto knows exactly who's causing this. And Naruto telepathically calls on Ren, the same demon he went to the Sand Village from. Ren, though, the reason why Naruto even brought him in the first place is because he's been having trouble with Ren and he just wanted him to get out of the village for a while, but it can't be helped at this point. Ren is trying to expose the existence of the demons in the village because his hunger is ravenous and he keeps eating villagers, like 10 to 20 villagers a day at least. So Naruto, he's going to take care of this problem. So he calls on Ren telepathically and has him meet him in one of the more forested areas of the Leaf Village. Not the Forest of Death, just a place with a bunch of trees. So Naruto, he walks into the forest and he sees Ren waiting there. And Ren is like, "Master, you called me?" Naruto said, "Bow your head to me." So Ren quickly fell to the ground and he bowed, and Naruto said, "What's this of me hearing of villagers going missing? How often are you eating?" And Ren tries to assure Naruto that he isn't eating that much, it must be Yoriichi and his group. Yoriichi being just another random villager turned into a demon. And Ren is thinking, crap, I'm screwed, how am I gonna get out of this one? And Naruto says, "Get out of what?" And Ren, he immediately freezes and says, "How does he know?" And Naruto says, "I can hear all of your thoughts. Ren, you've caused me enough trouble already. Now die." Naruto's hand turns into this monster-like creature with a mouth at the end of it. And Ren is thinking, the only way is to run. So he starts running through the forest, but he has nowhere to escape. Ren turns left and then he sees Naruto standing there. He turns right, he sees Naruto again. Every direction he's turning, Naruto keeps appearing, and then he turns behind him again and Naruto is right in front of him. And then this monster-like creature in his arm devours Ren whole. So Naruto, he cleans up the bloody scene from his clothes and then he returns home to where he begins preparing for the next day at the academy, where he will be getting his like ninja headband to finally become Genin. So the next day rolls around and Eruka, he's in class and he's pretty injured from yesterday. So everyone, they're wishing Eruka that he recovers and things like that. While Sasuke, he's just pissed. Yesterday, he didn't even get to go. Like, he was supposed to go after Naruto. But they would have to use a different metric to give those who didn't go as of yet, to give them like a fair chance. They'll just be doing what they normally do, just a simple shadow clone. Well, not shadow clone, a simple clone jutsu. And that's pretty much it. So after everyone who didn't go does their clone jutsu, Sasuke did a clone. It wasn't that hard, like no one failed it. Eruka, he then starts giving out the results for the written portion of the test, and as you could tell, Naruto, he aced it, getting the highest grade in the class, and Shikamaru, well, Shikamaru would have probably aced it as well, but of course it was a drag, so he placed like 15th in the class. People in the same area as Naruto would be like Sakura, Ino, Sasuke. They're pretty smart. So after giving out those results, people are surprised that Naruto, he placed that high, because Naruto never really tried all that much when he was doing certain tests in the academy, so his average wasn't the highest. He was always in like the top 10, but never number 1. So that combined with Naruto absolutely demolishing Eruka sensei in yesterday's exams, Naruto was crowned the Rookie of the Year. And with that revelation, Sasuke, he was mad actually, because he worked really hard to become stronger for the exam, because Sasuke in this, he actually cared because Naruto, he was getting all of the attention, and I think I said it in part 1, but Sasuke, he doesn't want to admit it, but he's jealous of Naruto. He's jealous of his strength and his popularity. So Sasuke, he's pretty mad at the fact that he couldn't display any of what he was working on. But anyways, Naruto, he's awarded Rookie of the Year, and Sakura is awarded Kunoichi of the Year. The reason I don't give it to Ino is because, I mean, I rag on Sakura in all of these what ifs, so I'll at least throw her a bone, well, for now. But yeah, so after all of that, Eruka, he gets the clipboard given to him by Hiruzen of all the different teams. So he starts announcing the teams, going from Team 10, which is the Inochika Cho, the trio, and their Jonin sensei would be Asuma. Then to Team 8 with Kiba, Hinata and Ino, and their Jonin sensei would be Kunai. And finally, Team 7, regular old Team 7, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, and their Jonin sensei would be Kakashi. So Eruka, he limps out of the room because he is still pretty injured, and each of the Jonin senseis come in to collect their team, and they go have some sort of introductions. So first, Team 7 Jonin sensei comes in. You know, Asuma, he comes in, takes Inochika Cho, and Kunai comes in soon after, taking her team. And Team 7 just has to wait there, really. They just have to wait and wait until Kakashi finally decides to show up a whole hour later. And the whole team was not happy. They just had to sit there in silence, really. And the entire time they were waiting, Sasuke, he kept eyeing down Naruto, kept giving him glances because he was not happy in the slightest about being on the same team with Naruto. But anyways, Kakashi, he comes into class, and when he opens the door, he can already feel the tension in the air, but it was pretty one-sided. It's mainly between Sasuke and Naruto, but one-sided, meaning as in it's Sasuke alone. Naruto doesn't even care. So Kakashi, he comes in and says, you know, he introduces himself, just a short bit saying he's Kakashi, and to meet him up on the roof. So everyone, they walk up simply, and when they get there, they sit down, and Kakashi starts saying, how about you guys introduce yourselves? And I just hit my mic. You know what? I'm gonna leave that one in because I've hit my mic at least 10 times already. So, I mean, it only takes like 0.5 seconds to delete it, but I'm just gonna leave it in just because. But yeah, Kakashi, he was saying, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? You can start off with your names, your likes, dislikes, and your goals for the future. So it starts off with Sasuke, and his is pretty routine. Sasuke saying how what he has isn't a dream, isn't a goal, because it's gonna be a reality. I really can't remember the exact quote, but it's something along those lines. And Sasuke, he says that he's gonna kill a certain someone and surpass someone else while glancing at Naruto. And Kakashi's like, okay, we have a friendly rivalry going on. That's good sometimes. So then it goes on to Sakura, and the whole time she is flirting over Sasuke. She says, hi, my name is Sakura Haruno. I like flowers. I dislike anyone that hates Sasuke. And then she starts saying about how her goal is to make a good husband for a certain someone. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Sasuke. But yeah, Sakura, like Kakashi, he's saying, oh, brother. Like, this isn't a good thing for a ninja. Ninjas aren't supposed to be feeling any sort of way while they're on their missions, because it could affect their mission, because their goal at the end of it is to complete it. So after all that's said and done, it's Naruto's turn, and Naruto says, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like perfection in everything I do, and I dislike those who try to oppose me. And Kakashi, he's thinking, oppose you? Like, he's thinking to himself, like, this guy's talking like he's a dictator or something. And Naruto continues saying, his goal for the future is to have complete control. And Kakashi, again, and even Naruto's teammates, they're confused what he means by this, but they don't think it's anything too harmful. So they just write him off as stupid or something, and they just continue on. Kakashi says they should meet him at the training grounds tomorrow, where they'll start their true test as a team. So let's just skip immediately to the training grounds, and Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, they're all waiting on Kakashi, and again, this guy is late, and Naruto, he's starting to get pissed at this. If you're the sensei, you should be here before everyone else. So after an hour and a half of waiting, Kakashi, he finally arrives, and Naruto comes up to Kakashi and he says, can you be early for once? And Kakashi, he starts coming up with excuses saying, oh, he was lost on the path of life, or a black cat crossed his path, so he had to take the long way around. But Naruto wasn't gonna take this sad excuse for an excuse, and he says, well, make sure to be early next time or else. And Naruto takes his pointer finger and pushes Kakashi back, like pushes him by his chest to show a bit of dominance. And Kakashi's like, who the hell is, who does this kid think he is? But anyways, Kakashi, he begins to explain the bell test, saying that whoever gets the bell first, they'll be, moved on, while the last person who doesn't will be sent back to the academy. And Sakura says that isn't fair, they worked really hard to get here. But Kakashi says, life isn't fair. So he says 3, 2, 1, begin, and Sasuke and Sakura rush off into the forest to hide, so they have a better vantage point on hopefully surprise attacking Kakashi. But what Kakashi didn't expect was Naruto to stay back, and Naruto was standing out in the open ready to take Kakashi on. So Kakashi's like, okay, this kid wants to test me. So Kakashi, he doesn't think anything of Naruto, and to humiliate him a bit, he takes out his Makeup Paradise book and plans to read it while he's fighting with Naruto. So Kakashi, he begins reading, and then he looks back to where Naruto was, and Naruto was gone, and Kakashi, he quickly puts down the book and starts scanning the area for where Naruto is, and he's surprised. He doesn't see Naruto anywhere, he doesn't sense Naruto, and he's kind of worried. But then from behind him, Naruto throws a punch, but Kakashi quickly responds and he flips around, grabbing Naruto's hand, and he says, "That was close." Because just before, like while Kakashi was getting worried, just for safe measures, he pulled up his headband, so that's how he was able to catch Naruto's punch. So Naruto begins throwing a flurry of punches to Kakashi, and every time they're getting stronger and stronger because Muzon does have incredible strength. So Naruto, he's punching Kakashi over and over, who's having a hard time trying to keep up. But then finally, Naruto, he gets the upper hand and punches Kakashi in the gut. And Sasuke and Sakura, they're all watching this and are amazed that Naruto can take on a Jonin. So Sasuke, not wanting Naruto to take all the credit, he jumps out from where he was hiding and then says, "Fire style, fireball jutsu." And this launches a massive ball of fire towards Kakashi. But him being next to a river, he quickly does hand signs and says water dragon jutsu. And a massive water dragon rises from the river, and this collides with the fireball, overpowering it, and it goes straight through it. And then it clashes with Sasuke, which pins him up against a tree. But Kakashi, he made the fatal mistake of taking his eyes off Naruto for a second. Naruto, he sneaks up behind Kakashi and then he shoves his nails into Kakashi's back and he screams out in pain. And Naruto uses this time to send some of his blood into Kakashi's body, turning him into one of his demons. So Kakashi, with this new surge of power, he drops to the ground, and Naruto made sure to infuse a lot of his blood into Kakashi. So Kakashi, he drops to the ground and starts convulsing, like his body shaking up, and then he finally stops moving and falls unconscious. So with this, Naruto takes Kakashi to the hospital, where they just say he needs some rest. He wasn't injured externally or anything. He was actually really healthy because with this infuse of Naruto's blood, he had regeneration. So any injury that Kakashi had, it was healed, and now Kakashi can activate and deactivate his Sharingan. But it was still just in his one eye. So Kakashi, he didn't spend long in the hospital, like a day, and after that, Team 7 finally became the official team, and then they started doing a bunch of D-rank missions, helping ladies cross the road. And Naruto, during this time, he made sure to give Kakashi some clear instructions. Basically what he gives most people, to just act as normal as possible, like nothing ever happened. So that's exactly what Kakashi does. As I said, he takes them on D-rank missions to chase cats and whatnot, but after a week of this, Naruto and understandably Sasuke and Sakura, they are getting pretty tired of these damn missions. So whenever they go to get their next D-rank mission, Naruto asks Hiruzen, he quote-unquote asks because he's just gonna tell him to give them a better mission, really. But he doesn't want to see him sus in front of his teammates, so he asks, and almost immediately Hiruzen gives up a C-rank escort mission. And Sasuke and Sakura, they're like, okay, I mean, it's better, at least they get to leave the village at least. So Hiruzen, he has the person who they're going to be escorting come into the room, and it's Tazuna. Tazuna, he comes in a complete drunk mess, and he starts slurring his words like, "Oh, these damn kids are the one escorting me. I paid good money." But Hiruzen, he has them take Tazuna out, and they're dragging him by his arms, and he's saying, "Let go of me, get me some booze." So after that whole situation, they all, the next day would roll around, and Tazuna, he's at the main gate, and when Team 7 finally comes, he's apologetic, saying last night that wasn't the regular him. He was completely, in every sense of the word, drunk. So after accepting his apology, Team 7 gets on their way to the Land of Waves, and they have a lot of challenges ahead of them, but that is where I'm gonna leave. So we start where we left off last time, with Team 7 escorting Tazuna to the Land of Waves. So as the group was walking, Kakashi noticed a puddle in front of them, which he quickly realized was a genjutsu since it hasn't rained in weeks. So the group passed the puddle, he didn't bring it up or anything. And as they did, the demon brothers jumped out ready to kill Tazuna. Naruto looked back at the two, and in speeds faster than any of them could perceive, Naruto jumped and placed both his feet on each of their backs and pushed them down into the ground and landed on top of them. Kakashi jumped in front of Tazuna because, he still thought the demon brothers were coming towards him, but when he looked, he realized that they weren't. There was this massive dust cloud, and when it settled, he saw Naruto standing on both the brothers. Sakura screamed in fear and rushed over to Sasuke for protection, and Kakashi thought, I couldn't even sense his movements. Naruto, what are you? Naruto stepped off the brothers and said, Kakashi, you can clean this up. And Kakashi was in shock, and without even thinking, he did as Naruto said, even though Naruto wasn't controlling him in any way. So Naruto walked up to Tazuna and said, rest assured that this is the best team in Konoha. And Sasuke and Sakura were confused because, unlike Kakashi, they didn't even know about the demon brothers' attack. So as far as they knew, Naruto launched an attack on an enemy that they didn't even know was there, so it was short of incredible. So Kakashi made sure both of the brothers were dead and sealed their bodies into scrolls, and now they were back on the move. Sakura walked behind Naruto, entranced by his incredible strength. And she thought, what if Naruto could teach her how to get stronger, and then Sasuke would finally like her, or finally notice her even. But her thoughts were cut short when a thick fog rolled in, and Kakashi held out his hand in front of the group and said, wait. And they stood in complete silence for a second, and then the sound of something flying through the air could be heard, and Kakashi yelled, duck. The whole team dropped to the ground except Naruto, who just stood there as if nothing was happening, and the executioner's blade came cutting right through Naruto's neck. His head flew off and blood started spraying all over his teammates, and Naruto's body dropped to the ground dead. And the sword lodged itself into a tree and Zabuza landed on it, and he looked at the group and realized he scored a kill. He smiled and said, seemed that kid didn't learn listening in the academy. And Kakashi was in shock. His hands were shaking violently and he looked at Zabuza, and in a fit of rage the tomoe in his eyes started spinning, merging into the Mangekyo Sharingan. Kakashi ran at Zabuza, who jumped away and pulled his sword out of the tree, and they both stared each other down on a lake. And Kakashi rushed him, getting in close enough for taijutsu, and Zabuza, he wasn't expecting this barrage of attacks from Kakashi because he was used to him staying back, or at least from the stories of battles he'd heard with, Kakashi fighting. He would often just stay back and provide support or, counter with his Sharingan, using his copying abilities. So Kakashi began dodging all of Zabuza's attempts to cut him with his sword because his perception of time slowed, and he dodged all his attacks effortlessly. Kakashi then kicked Zabuza back, and while he was down, Kakashi weaved 10 hand signs in a split second, like if you blink, you would have missed it, and said, Chidori! Kakashi ran at Zabuza full speed, intending to kill him, but Haku, watching from the sidelines, saw Zabuza was going to die. So he quickly jumped out and he threw Senbon at Kakashi, but the Senbon phased right through his body and Kakashi plunged his Chidori into Zabuza, killing him on impact. Haku shouted, "No! Zabuza!" He weaved the multiple hand signs and then slammed his hand into the ground, sending out a massive glacier of ice. Kakashi watched as it came closer and closer, unable to do anything because he hit his limit. Then a shadowy figure appeared in front of Kakashi, and its hand grew to massive sizes. Imagine, well, if you guys watch MHA, Kendo from Class 1B, her massive fists. So it grew to that size and it punched the glacier, stopping it from coming further. And it started cracking until the whole glacier broke, shattering all the ice. Haku watched surprised because her ultimate ability was demolished in a single move. But then a figure appeared behind him and shoved his hand into Haku before ripping it out. Sasuke was fully focused on the fight, but he remembered Naruto, and when he turned around, Naruto's body was gone. Sasuke was confused and he turned back to the fight and looked at Haku and tried to make out who that person was. And well, Haku was on the ground and standing over him was Naruto. Sasuke was confused, so confused he couldn't even come up with anything to say. He was that shocked. Sakura too, but she got up as Naruto was walking towards them and she held her shirt, and with tears streaming down her face, she ran up to Naruto and tried punching him, but Naruto grabbed her fist, and Sakura, with tears running down her face, said, "I hate you. I thought you died." And Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, "Why would it matter to you? As long as you have Sasuke, you should be alright." And Naruto chuckled a bit, but Sakura was serious. She said, "We're a team, okay? So I'll risk my life if it means we can all go back to the village safe." And Naruto, hearing this, paused for a minute. He didn't expect this kind of loyalty from Sakura, but he had an evil grin and thought maybe he'll test her limits one day. But Naruto turned around and said, "It's not a big deal, let's go." And Naruto walked to Kakashi and asked if he was alright, but Kakashi didn't respond. He wasn't moving, and Naruto looked into his eyes and Kakashi was completely out of it. He pushed himself far past his limits, and the only thing keeping him standing was really his willpower. So Naruto hoisted Kakashi over his shoulders and rounded up the team to get a move on. Sasuke was walking at the very back of the group and he was thinking, like, are we really just gonna ignore the fact that we just saw Naruto die? He just can't wrap his head around it, and Sakura seems like she's trying to pretend it didn't happen, and so is Tazuna. But he knows what he saw, and he saw Naruto's head get cut right off. And now he's just standing walking up like nothing ever happened. Something isn't right, and Sasuke knows that he'll figure it out. So after walking for a bit, Tazuna brought the two to this guy that he knows, a fisherman, and they get into his boat and they row him over to the actual land of waves. So while in this little boat, they see the land of waves and it was way worse than they expected. Poverty was, I mean, you can stare at the village and you could realize that it was not prosperous. People were just standing out in the streets, laying out because they really had no homes to go to. This was their home, but they didn't own any land. So after this boat ride, they get to the docks and the mist actually starts to clear up a bit. And after this, they all head to Tazuna's house, like he shows them the way. So as soon as they get into his house, Tazuna's daughter comes and greets her father, and she gives him a massive hug, while Team 7 takes Kakashi to one of the guest rooms where he's laid down to rest. Because Kakashi, I mean, imagine Kakashi from canon, his exhaustion, times that by 10. Because Kakashi has never used a Mangekyo, he has no experience with it. It was all really just instinct. He just did it on the fly. He didn't even know what he was doing, to be honest. So after laying Kakashi down to rest, Tazuna, he calls the rest of Team 7 out and they have a quick feast because Tazuna's daughter, bro, I'm telling you, she's Gordon Ramsay reincarnation, because her cooking, not even Gordon Ramsay, Ichiraku, because she is a god in the kitchen. So they all have a massive feast and their stomachs are filled to the brim. But while they were eating, Tazuna's grandson Inari, he came out and seeing the team, and well, Tazuna, he was talking about what they were there for, And Inari, he's adamant that they cannot defeat Gato, and he keeps saying this to them, and Naruto, he turns around and just stares at Inari. That's all he does, he just stares at him, and Inari gets scared from this and he runs behind a wall for protection. And Naruto said, "You want to repeat that?" And Sakura, she quickly chimed in and said, "Naruto, cut it out, it's just a kid." So Naruto, he just smirks and went back to eating. Inari had a bad feeling about Naruto. He knew he was no good, so he made sure to go to his room so he would stay as far away from him as possible. So after eating, everyone cleaned up, and Team 7, because they were tired, they had to share a room. It wasn't that much of a problem. They just slept on the floor in futons. So everyone goes to bed, and in the middle of the night, Naruto's eyes open up and he slips out of his futon, not alerting anyone, or, well, at least that's what he thinks. So Naruto, he makes his way outside and the moon is high in the sky, and he walks calmly to the forest surrounding the land of waves, and he waits there for about 2 minutes. Then 3 high-class demons appear. One is the Hokage himself, and the other 2 were a part of Hiruzen's personal Anbu squad, which Naruto made sure to turn into demons also. So all 3 of them arrive and Naruto says, "You're late." Hiruzen and the other demons dropped to their knees and said, "We're sorry, master, but the heads of the clans in the village, they wanted to have a meeting and it was just chaos." Naruto says, "I didn't ask for an excuse. Anyways, what says the group of demons in the sand?" Hiruzen began to speak and he said, "Orochimaru had infiltrated the village and plans to assassinate the Kazekage. Right now he's posing as a civilian. Should we take care of him?" Naruto thought for a second and said, "No, I'd like to see what he plans to do. But before you go, Hiruzen, I have something special for you." Hiruzen stood up and said, "Yes, master." So Naruto shoved his nails into Hiruzen's stomach, driving a lot of his blood into his body, amping up Hiruzen's demonic abilities. And Hiruzen held his stomach in pain and dropped to the ground, and his body began shaking. And Naruto said to the other 2 demons, "Take him back to the village. His transformation will take 2 days." The 2 did as they were told and carried Hiruzen back to the leaf. So Naruto turned around to walk back, and that's when he saw a figure quickly go behind a tree. And Naruto laughed and said, "Sasuke, what are you doing up so late?" And Sasuke was hiding behind a tree and he was hesitant to show himself, but after taking a nervous gulp, he came out from behind the tree. Sasuke demanded to know what Naruto was and why the Hokage was bowing to him. Naruto laughed and said, "I don't have to tell you anything, Sasuke." And Sasuke was trying to find anything to help his argument, and then he said, "Well, if you don't, I'll tell Kakashi and the rest of the village." And Naruto slowly walked up to Sasuke, who took out a kunai and took a defensive stance. But Naruto just came closer and closer while Sasuke said, "Stay back, I'm warning you." And every step Naruto took towards him, Sasuke took a step back until he hit a tree and he had nowhere else to go. At that point, Naruto is still walking towards him and he said, "The reason why you won't tell anyone about any of this is because I'll kill you." And Naruto's stomach began to open up and sharp teeth began forming, and Naruto's whole stomach turned into a monstrous mouth, and then it snapped shut, reverting back to normal. Sasuke was trembling out of fear, and Naruto walked up to him and put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Come on, let's get back before Kakashi gets worried." And Naruto walked off with Sasuke still freaked out about what he just saw. So the next morning while at breakfast, Sasuke, he didn't even have breakfast. He made sure to go outside before Naruto even woke up and went to supervise the bridge builders early. So after they finished eating, Naruto joined them, and this, nothing really happened. They just patrolled, made sure that no one else tried to attack the bridge builders, and that was really it for the next 3 days. And on the 3rd day, Kakashi finally recovers from his, well, not really injuries, but his exhaustion. Like his chakra has returned to normal levels from his fight with Zabuza. So after he gets up, he realizes that, his team has been doing a pretty good job. So he doesn't really have to instruct them anymore. And of course, he's still in those crutches. So after 4 days of being in the Land of Waves, the bridge builders finally complete the bridge. And they had no other fights, but it seemed to be going too well. And that's when Gato and his men arrive, because they haven't heard back from Zabuza. So if you want something done right, they decided to do it themselves. But they had chose the wrong group of ninjas, because this was probably the worst fight they would get in. And Kakashi, he wanted to stretch his legs, make sure that, he was back to 100%. And Sasuke, he had been doing nothing the entire trip, so he wanted to get in on some action. So the both of them worked together to take down all of the mercenaries, and that was pretty much it. So after that's all said and done, the bridge is finally completed, but it needs a name, and that's when Tazuna names it the Great Naruto Bridge. So with their mission complete, Team 7 returns to the Land of Waves. The journey is less than a day, so it isn't that bad. And they get back to the Leaf Village and they report to Hiruzen. But when they get to his office, Hiruzen is looking a bit different than what they left him. Hiruzen's Hokage outfit is completely different. It's more akin to the Kazekage's outfit. When Orochimaru was wearing it, it was basically hiding most of his face except his eyes, but Hiruzen's Hokage robe was hiding his entire face. He had a face mask pulled up to his nose similar to Kakashi, but not only that, Hiruzen had a hat similar to what the Akatsuki would wear. Basically, he had these white ribbons hiding his face, just like how Itachi and Kisame would wear it when they first appeared in the Leaf Village. So they are, surprised by this, but they don't really question it because maybe he has his own reasons for it. They don't want to pry. But of course, they get their reward for their C rank mission, which was upgraded to A rank one. So after getting their rewards, Naruto and the rest of them return home. But the next day, they are called to the training grounds by Kakashi. So Team 7 makes their way to the training grounds, and it's pretty early in the morning. It's like 8 AM. So when they get to the training grounds, they see Kakashi there, and they're wondering what's up. Do they have another mission or something? But Kakashi explains to them that the Chunin exams are up and coming, so they should make sure to prepare well for the exams, and that's what they did. After getting this information from Kakashi, they all go in their separate directions in their styles of training. Sasuke, he was more jutsu based, like he wanted to get a lot of jutsu in his, skill set and master them. So Sasuke, he went to the Uchiha library where he had an assortment of fire jutsu that he needed to learn. Sakura, she was going to follow Sasuke, but he went too fast, so she couldn't keep up, and she was just left on the fields with Naruto. So she decided to ask Naruto something that she's been thinking of for a very long time. She walks up to Naruto and says, "Naruto, can you train me?" Naruto straight up asks Sakura, "Why should I?" And Sakura, she couldn't come up with an answer and said, "I'll do anything you need, just please, I want to be more powerful." And Naruto said, "Are you sure that's the whole truth?" And Sakura was hesitant and dropped her head and said, "I was also hoping Sasuke would like me even more." Naruto was thinking of turning her into a demon, but the weakness to light that she would develop would be a hindrance, considering, she does have good chakra control. She may be able to do what Naruto does, but Naruto has actually trained specifically chakra control for years, and for it to be able to cover his whole body. So Naruto is really doubtful that she would be able to. So he just tells her he can't train her. But he would suggest asking Kunai because Kunai sort of suits Sakura perfectly. So Sakura, hearing this news, she perks up and says, "Thank you, Naruto," and runs off to find Kunai sensei. So over these 2 weeks, Naruto really didn't do much. But let's quickly switch perspectives to Hiruzen. He was returning to his house, which is, right next to the Hokage mansion. And after Naruto did that thing to him, he doesn't know what it is, did that thing to him in the forest by the Land of Waves, he's been feeling a lot stronger. So Hiruzen went to his personal training ground and he squared up to punch a log. And when he punched it, a massive gust of wind came from his punch, and this sent some of the trees in front of him collapsing, it tore them down. The closest thing I could relate Hiruzen's punches to is All Might's punch. It is exactly what All Might punches look like, air pressure and everything. So Hiruzen was amazed at this newfound power. Maybe he is even stronger than Naruto himself. But we switch back to the Demon King with his teammates ready to enter the Chunin exams. So all 3 of them enter the academy and immediately they are met with this large crowd blocking the doorway. But Naruto and the others, they easily slipped through, it wasn't any problem. And Sakura realized that this was a genjutsu and the actual floor is upstairs. So all 3 of them make their way up, and this caught the attention of Neji's team because no other genin could see through this genjutsu. So they had a bit of interest, and Lee especially, because they had a Uchiha on their team and they know Sasuke's abilities, but even more Naruto's because he was the Rookie of the Year, so they were even more interested in this Uzumaki. So they followed the 3 of them upstairs, and before they enter the room for the first stage, Lee approaches the team and asks Naruto for a fight. And Naruto, he would, like any other day of the week, he would definitely say yes. But Naruto, he isn't trying to get into anything right now. He just wants to get this over and done with. So he tells Lee they'll meet in the exams and then they'll have a proper fight. And Lee, hearing this, he was actually pretty excited now because Naruto was basically challenging him. But he was getting pumped up to fight Naruto in an actual exam. So the group of them, like Team 7, they walk into this room and are immediately met by stares of everyone around them. And they were watching the Team 7 sort of trying to intimidate them. But Naruto, he wasn't the least bit phased, and he just walked into a corner and sat when, his other 2 teammates followed him over because they really didn't know what to do. So after waiting there for about 5 minutes, Ibiki comes into the room and tells everyone to sit properly and get ready for the test. So everyone sits, at their assigned seat. They sit straight because Ibiki, he's kind of intimidating. And after all of that, he starts to explain this stage of the Chunin exams. So he goes over how there will be 9 questions, but the 10th one will be saved for last, and they'll have to figure that one out. So they'll be given the test, and the only rule is don't cheat. Well, don't get caught cheating. That's specifically what he says. And then after that, he just begins, puts like an hour on the timer, and then starts everyone off. So everyone starts doing their exams, and of course, people are cheating similar to as they did in canon, like Gaara using a sand eye, other people using chakras to tilt the mirrors in the ceiling. They were really creative about it, but Naruto, he didn't have to do any of that because he could simply answer the questions because to him, they weren't really that hard. But after the hour timer had finally went up, there was about like 70% of the class left, the original people left, the other 30% were caught cheating, so they were kicked out. And after all of this, Ibiki, he starts to explain the 10th question. And this question is really important because if they were to get it wrong, they will be barred from ever taking the Chunin exams ever again. So this really tested people's resolve, and many started leaving because what's the point of getting one question wrong and never being able to promote a Chunin when you can't just prepare even more and come back next year? So a lot of people chose that option, and by the end of Ibiki's, well, psychological evaluation, he drove off another 50% of the class, leaving only 20% of the original class left. And after that, he broke the news saying there really was no 10th question. He was just playing some mind games with all of them. And some people were angry, but hey, they passed either way. So after that said and done, Anko, she bust through the window like a freaking hooligan, and shards fly all over Ibiki and some of the students in the front row. And Ibiki, he's like, "Anko, I told you there's a front door for a reason." And Anko, she's laughing, saying, "Come on, Ibiki, don't be such a hothead." But Ibiki, he just brushes off the glass and walks out. And Anko is like, "I don't know what's his problem. But anyways, you maggots, make your way over to the Forest of Death." So as they were instructed, everyone in the class makes their way over to the Forest of Death. And once they're there, everyone sees Anko standing on a rock, and she begins explaining the rules of the Forest of Death. And one rule that she makes evidently clear is that killing is allowed. And after hearing this, people are actually getting scared and wondering if they should leave, but their teammates make sure they don't. And Naruto, he's in the crowd, you know, listening to all of this, and there's someone behind him acting really strange. This person has a really long tongue, and Anko, she's seeing Naruto being distracted, so she throws a kunai, trying to just barely cut Naruto across the cheek. But Naruto, he just grabs the kunai in midair and then appears behind Anko. And this is so fast that no one even sees it. Anko is like, where did he even go? And Naruto just, you know, taps her shoulder, and this gets Anko's attention. He turns around, and Naruto, he just hands her the kunai and said, "Oh, you dropped this." And Anko is like, thanks. And Anko, her mind is racing, thinking, what did she just witness? What is this kid's speed? She didn't even see him for a second. But Anko, she manages to control herself and tells everyone to head over to the tents to collect their scrolls. So Team 7 heads over to the tents, and they're given a Earth scroll and are given a number, a 3-digit number, and this corresponds to the gate that they would have to wait at before entering the Forest of Death. So Team 7, they head to their number gate and just wait there until Anko gives them the ready to enter the Forest of Death. And in about 1 minute, Anko comes over these speakers and says, "Get ready and prepare to die, because this is the Forest of Death." The gates swing open and Team 7 rush in, ready to claim their victory. So we pick up the story right where we left off, with Naruto and Team 7 rushing into the Forest of Death for the second stage of the Chunin exams. So they're jumping from branch to branch, and Naruto, he's getting ready to set his plan into motion, because Naruto has thought about this for months now, because he wants to take over the village. That's really his end goal. So Naruto, he has been carefully planning this moment. So while he's on the move with his teammates, he stops them for a second, and then, you know, they're wondering like, what is it? So Naruto, he says that he needs to give them something, and they're still really confused, but hey, I mean, they're getting something, so they're like, what is it? So Naruto, he walks up to Sasuke first, and Sasuke is a bit uncomfortable because Naruto is getting really close. And then Naruto shoves his nails into Sasuke's stomach, and Sasuke is screaming in pain, and he's holding on to Naruto's arm like he isn't trying to break free, but from the amount of pain, he's squeezing down on Naruto's arm. And then Sakura, seeing this, she grabs Naruto's shoulder and tries pulling him off of Sasuke. But Naruto, he resists her strength because Sakura, she's pretty weak, I mean, compared to Naruto. So he sends a large amount of blood into Sasuke's body, and then he drops to the ground and his body starts shaking because it's going through its transformation. So Naruto, he turns to Sakura and she has tears running down her eyes and she's trying to punch Naruto. Like she's punching him, but it's not doing anything. And then Naruto, he grabs her fist and then says, "You should be happy. I'm making you useful at least." And then he stabs his nails into her stomach as well, putting some of his blood into her bloodstream to see if her body would reject it or not. Because not everyone has 100% chance of turning into a demon. They could just die because of their overwhelming power. So Naruto, he's seeing if Sakura can handle it. So while the both of them are on the ground and their bodies are shaking around, Naruto, he looks back to the two and then says, "You'll know where to meet me," and jumps off. So while Naruto is traveling to the middle of the Forest of Death, you know, where everyone would meet up, Naruto, he looks at the scroll in his hand and it reminds him that, well, he needs a heaven scroll to pass. So Naruto stops for a second to listen to his environment around him, and then he picks up the sound of a river flowing and starts running towards it, knowing that people are most likely to be along the river trying to get food and water. And after running to where he heard where the river was, Naruto, he was absolutely right, because right there and then he saw a team from the sand, and this team wasn't Gaara's team, it was just some fodder team. And Naruto, he jumps down and they see him, and at first they were a bit scared, but then they're like, "Oh, it's just one guy, we can take him easily." So one of the guys on the sand team was a puppet user, and he takes out his basic puppet. It doesn't have anything fancy like swords, like someone like Kankuro or Sasori. So Naruto, he rushes towards them, and they weren't expecting Naruto to be this fast, but the puppet user used its puppet as a shield, but Naruto easily broke through it because it's just wood. He just punches through it, and then he appears behind the team and then takes them down one by one in one fell swoop. So after doing this, Naruto starts searching through their pockets, and luckily enough, they had the scroll he needed, a heaven scroll. So Naruto begins his journey to the center of the Forest of Death, and he's just jumping from branch to branch trying to get there. But then Naruto, he sees in front of him this lady or something with a long black hair. So Naruto, he stops, and then this person turns around, and then they start licking their lips, and then a confused look came on the person's face, and then said, "Where is Sasuke?" From his mannerisms alone, Naruto could tell that this was Orochimaru, the infamous Sannin that he has been reading about a lot actually. And Naruto, he doesn't give him an answer, he just goes immediately into action. And Naruto, he disappears from Orochimaru's vision, and he's looking around trying to find where Naruto went. But that's when Naruto came up behind Orochimaru and grabbed him like from behind. And then Naruto started to use one of his abilities, and this was absorption. Naruto was absorbing Orochimaru's cells into his body, and Orochimaru was wondering what the heck this is. He can like feel his body melting almost. So Orochimaru, he quickly regurgitates himself, and then this made it so he's escaped from Naruto's grasp. And he uses this time to try and get as far away as possible, because if Naruto can just kill him by just a touch, like what else could he do? So Orochimaru, he's running, but Naruto, he appears in front of him and punches him right in the face. And this sends Orochimaru flying back into a tree, and Naruto, he runs up to the tree and punches him again, sending him through even more trees. So Naruto keeps brutally beating down on Orochimaru, and he used this time to send out one little snake, and this contained, enough to revive himself. So Orochimaru's body began getting absolutely pummeled by Naruto, and eventually, after sustaining way too much damage, like it started to fall apart like it wasn't even a human person, and that's when Naruto realized that he got away. So Naruto, he starts dusting himself off from that fight, and then he gets up to truly get to what he was planning to do while in the Forest of Death. Now, this is where we're gonna switch perspectives to Sasuke and Sakura. Both of them wake up in the middle of the forest, and when Sasuke got up, he felt a bit different, and he looks down at his hands, and then he sees eyeballs in the palm of his hand staring back at him. And Sasuke, he starts freaking out. I mean, imagine seeing an eye in your hand. And Sasuke, she's worried about her dear Sasuke-kun, so she runs over to him and she says, "What's wrong, Sasuke?" And Sasuke just opens up his hand, and Sakura, she starts freaking out but tries remaining calm, and she said, "Don't worry, let's just try and find Naruto. He must have had something to do with this." All this time, Sasuke is thinking if Naruto did the same thing to him that he did to Hiruzen that one day when they were on the Land of Waves mission. So Sasuke, he's still thinking about this, and he decides to get up, and the eyes in his palm shut, like they close shut like eyelids. So he and Sakura started walking to try and get back to Naruto. And while they were walking, you know, they're under the shade of these massive trees, but they get out into the sunlight, and at first they felt fine, but a few seconds later a scorching pain ran through their entire body, like the sun was 100 times hotter than it was. And they both started screaming in pain because this was some of the worst pains they have ever felt. So they drop to the ground and begin to lose consciousness due to the pain. But then Naruto jumps in out of nowhere and grabs them and brings them back into the shade. So Naruto puts them down and then said, "You two alright?" And Sasuke, still hurting from the immense pain, said, "What did you do to us?" And Naruto smiled and said, "You should be happy. I gave you unimaginable power. Both of you are now demons." Sakura, hearing this, began to shake in fear. "Demons, but I'll be disowned from my family." And Naruto laughed and said, "Don't be too worried because you won't be alone." And then from behind Naruto came Team 10 and Team 8, all of their members having turned into demons. And some of you might be wondering how. Well, after Naruto had dealt with Orochimaru, he decided it would be a good idea to start his own takeover of the village, starting with all the genin, or at least all he could find. So after a few seconds, Sasuke and Sakura, their wounds from the sun would begin to heal because of their healing factor due to them now being demons. And Naruto said to the two, "Try staying out of the sun. I'll teach you later how to try and avoid it, but without years of mastery, you won't be completely immune." So all the Konoha 12, excluding Neji's team, now turned into demons, made their way to the center to finish off the second stage of the Chunin exams. So everyone gets into the room and they're all waiting around, and let me explain when someone becomes a demon. So they still have their own consciousness, they're still able to think for themselves, but Naruto does have the ability to control any of the demons he has under his control at any time. And he can also put curses on them, so if someone were to go against his word, whatever curse is in place, that would be enacted. So for instance, if you go against Naruto's word, you would lose a leg. I don't know, it's just something like that. So Naruto has these type of curses placed on every one of them, and he makes sure that they know of that fact, that they can't disobey him, and they just don't know what curse is on them, so they don't know if it could be really bad or something not that bad. So they all are waiting around in the mansion at the center of the Forest of Death, and soon enough Hiruzen comes out. This is because everyone is there. They spent 2 days in the forest, so that's why, you know, everyone is already here. So everyone who would pass in the original, they get here, and then they enter this huge area. It looks like a fighting area with places to stand and watch on the sides. And now Hiruzen starts to talk to all of the genins that passed. "You all did an incredible job. I'm quite impressed at the quantity of students that passed. But we have one too many, so we'll be holding some preliminary exams to bump the numbers down a bit so you can all fit into neat brackets for the final stage." So everyone who's there, some people drop out like Kabuto because he doesn't want to take any part in this. He's saying, "Bro, I'm already far enough, I can't bother." But we all know the true reason why. So after Kabuto and another person drop out, they're finally ready to begin the preliminaries. And first up is Naruto versus Kiba. And this fight is just gonna be a total... Kiba is gonna get dragged through the mud, but he does have some demonic abilities, but against Naruto, they are basically useless. So the Proctor starts the fight, and as soon as he does, Kiba, he tries rushing in and using like his really sharpened nails, he tries swiping at Naruto, but Naruto just simply moves his head a couple inches and then dodges the ability, and Kiba, now in the air, unable to move or change his trajectory or anything, gets punched in the stomach. And then Naruto, he does something so weird. He punches him up in the stomach but bends his wrist, bringing him back down then into the ground. And then Kiba, he coughs up blood because this was a heavy attack. There's now a crater in the ground. And then Naruto, he punches him again, breaking some of his ribs and stabbing into his organs. But, you know, Kiba, he's gonna be fine. He's a demon, he'll just heal. But this is incredible, and some of the Jonin watching are marveling at Naruto's strength. It's comparable to Tsunade. After that complete beatdown, Sasuke is up next, and he is going up against Yoroi, which is a leaf ninja. But alright, we need to talk about this guy. I might even make a whole video about him separately, but this guy is the most trash ninja. I'm not even sure if that's a word. The trashest ninja in basically almost the entire series. This guy fought a crippled, a tired, a worn out Sasuke who couldn't use jutsus and couldn't activate his Sharingan, couldn't use the well, he could use the curse mark, but he decided not to. All of that, and the guy can, what, like, absorb your chakra and physical strength? You have a broken ability, and this, remember, this was the start of the series. He has a broken ability, and he still loses. Bro, you are trash. You're literally top 10 most trash ninja in the entire series. I might make that a video, honestly. But yeah, sorry for the rant. Let's just get back into the video, man. But this guy, so trash. But anyways, they both walk into the arena, and then the Proctor tells them to begin. And Sasuke, he doesn't even know how to use his abilities, but Naruto starts speaking to him telepathically. And then he says, your ability is quite simple. Just imagine a line moving out of your hand and hitting your opponent, and you can pretty much move it in whatever direction you want to. And then Sasuke, he's trying to imagine this, and then he points out his arm, and Yoroi, he backs up because he thought he was gonna launch a jutsu or something, but nothing happens. So Sasuke, he begins imagining this line, and it shoots out of his hand and it strikes Yoroi in his chest, and it was a direct hit. And Yoroi, he coughs up blood because this went basically through his body, injuring his insides in the process. And then Sasuke, he was amazed by this, so he had the arrow do a complete U-turn and start shooting through his body multiple times over and over and over until Yoroi couldn't take it anymore and he dropped over onto the ground. And the Proctor, he forgot to even announce Sasuke the winner. He was so intrigued by this ability. But then he said, oh, my bad, Sasuke Uchiha wins. So he goes up to the stands, and then he looks to Naruto, and Naruto just smirks at him and said, not bad. So up next, it was Sakura, and you guys might be wondering, what is Sakura's demon art? Well, in the show, the person with her demon art is Susanoo, and she has the ability to conjure these dense temari, and she can throw them around, and when they hit you, you're basically dead. That's really the bottom line. It depends on where though, you could literally be decapitated with one of the temari. So Sakura, she goes down, and Naruto, he gives her the same rundown of her abilities, the same as he did with Sasuke. So Sakura, she starts going up against Ino, who has her own demonic abilities, which is a match for Sakura. So I'd say the same tie thing goes down, and I can't really be bothered explaining Sakura's fight, but just know it actually was really good. Like, some were amazed at Sakura and Ino's progress. So that about wraps up the preliminary exams, and now they have a month break to go and train or realistically do whatever they want. But there will be the third round of the Chunin exams in a month. So during this month period, Naruto would take a lot of time to prepare for the upcoming Konoha crush. Because remember, he does have intelligence in the Sand Village, so he knows about what's going to happen. So Naruto, he has to prepare for what's about to happen. So a few weeks into the 1 month training period, and Naruto has made arrangements for everything that's going to happen. So now he's just missing one key detail, and that is to complete the look of the smooth criminal. So Naruto, he goes to a clothes store and he picks up a white hat to match his entire outfit. He has the white pants, the black jacket, black undershirt, and a white tie. So Naruto, he is fully ascended. His power level has risen 10,000 times. So he is ready for the 3rd stage of the tuning exams. So a week later, and everyone is gathered inside the arena ready to watch the 3rd stage of the tuning exams. So everyone is there waiting, but they don't see Naruto anywhere. Even Sasuke, he's been there. He was actually early. But then they start hearing some music in the distance. And people are wondering what that is or where it's coming from. But then they see Naruto doing this weird thing with his feet, but he's like smoothly moving backwards and his back is turned to everyone like he's walking on the moon. Some would say he is moonwalking. And he gets into the arena and then he spins around, holds his crotch and holds his hat, and then he says, "I'm ready." So the matchups in this 3rd stage is going to be a little bit different than in canon. The starting fights would be Shikamaru, Temari, Shino, and Kankuro, and then it would be Naruto versus Gaara. So after the first 2 rounds go basically, well, not the same to canon because Shikamaru and Shino have demonic abilities. So they would basically wipe Temari and Kankuro. I mean, I'm not gonna, downplay them because they did put up a really good fight against the two. But when you're going up against literal demons, yeah, you're not gonna win. Especially that both of them can heal. It was a really unfair match. But onto a matchup that has some potential to actually be really good, and that is Gaara versus Naruto. So Naruto, all of the people he's turned into demons, all those demons, they're like, oh yeah, Gaara, he's gonna get it. Naruto, he can't be beat, literally. So they both go into the fighting arena, and then the proctor starts the match, and Gaara, he's just standing there with his hands folded, and Naruto, he's looking on with a smile, and then he says, "I'll be sure to finish this as quickly as possible." But Gaara still doesn't give Naruto a reaction, so Naruto, he puts all of his strength into his legs and move as fast as Lee did when he was in the preliminary rounds, and this caught Gaara off guard. But Naruto, he was faster than Lee, and he appeared behind him and punched right through the sand barrier and hit Gaara in the head, sending him flying. And Temari and Kankuro are watching because they're getting worried, because if Gaara is gonna take any more of these hits, he may turn into that beast. So Naruto, he keeps pummeling Gaara around, but Gaara, he puts up this sand shield blocking Naruto, but Naruto keeps punching at it, and you can see cracks start forming into the shield made of sand, and then Naruto gives it one good punch again and it explodes. So with this, Naruto, he smirks and then says, "Is that really all you've got? It seems I'll have to show you what true strength looks like." And then Naruto, his arms go limp and then they extend to the ground like, imagine Luffy, and they just drop to the ground like noodles. And then Naruto, he starts flinging his upper body around and his arms start extending further and further, and then sharp blades appear along Naruto's arm, all around it. And Naruto, he swings his arms towards Gaara, but he manages to block it with his sand. But what he didn't realize is Naruto's other arm coming from above, and this shoves some knives into Gaara's shoulders, barely missing his head and other vital areas. and Gaara, he screams out in pain, and then he starts making this massive sand dome around him, and Naruto, he has to drag away his hand so it doesn't get encased, and Naruto, he's watching as there's absolutely nothing, no sound, no nothing coming from this dome. So Naruto, he begins to wait, but soon grows impatient because Gaara, he's doing nothing. So he decides to take matters into his own hands. And I mean this literally, not as a pun, because Naruto, he's gonna literally use his hands as a way to get Gaara out. So Naruto, he makes his hands really massive. Imagine Kendo from Class 1B, and then he puts his hand together like a hammer and then slams down onto the dome. And then Temari and Kankuro, they're looking at this and they're like, what even is this, kid? And this breaks the dome entirely and actually crushes Gaara in the process, but his half Shikaku state actually saved him. But due to this attack, it knocked Gaara unconscious, but that's the perfect thing that Shikaku needs to come out. So after doing that, Shikaku, it bursts out of Gaara in this massive cloud of smoke, and it starts tearing through the walls of the arena, and people are screaming in fear, and Hiruzen, he looks over to the Kazekage wondering what to do, like he's still pretending that he doesn't know it's Orochimaru. Because of the intelligence that, you know, they got from the sand, Hiruzen, he already knows. So Hiruzen, he's like, what is the meaning of this? And then the Kazekage's mask comes off, revealing that it's Orochimaru. And Hiruzen, he stops playing the act and says, so you finally decide to show yourself. And Orochimaru, he's kind of caught off guard because this was supposed to be a surprise. But he seemed like he already knew, which he did. But anyways, he has to take Hiruzen down either way, so he runs off towards the top of the arena, and that's where the Sound 4 is there, and they cast the barrier jutsu, the 4-corner barrier jutsu, and this encases both Orochimaru and Hiruzen inside of this squared barrier. But remember, Hiruzen, he's wearing all his Hokage gear, and because he turned into a demon, he had a lot of demonic features, so he had to wear a lot of covering, so it wouldn't really be suspicious. And Orochimaru, he still doesn't know. So Hiruzen, he starts taking off his Hokage cloak, and which, you know, it hid most of his face. But what Orochimaru saw was not his master. What he saw was comparable to a demon. And Orochimaru's asking him, what are you? Who are you? And Hiruzen said, don't you remember me, Orochimaru? Hiruzen Sarutobi. And Orochimaru's like, no, it can't be. But of course it is. And Orochimaru, he's just in denial or something. So we switch perspectives to Kakashi in the stands, and he watches as everyone's around him falls asleep due to the genjutsu cast by the Sand Jonin in the back. So he goes and releases the genjutsu from some other people, and they go and take down everyone in the arena that's casting the genjutsu. So while everyone's doing that, we go back to Naruto and his predicament of Shikaku appearing right basically in the middle of the village. But Naruto is like, do you really think you're the only one that can turn into a giant beast? So Naruto, he starts putting all of his power into this transformation, and because of how massive it's going to be, the chakra shield that he normally has around himself to block himself from the sun rays. Also, I should mention that due to Naruto basically having control of Hiruzen and things like that, the Chunin exam didn't happen in the morning. Well, it happened in a really late evening, so it wouldn't really affect some of the demons attending the arena. So Naruto, he just thought ahead about that. But anyways, Naruto, he turns into this massive beast, and I'm going to put a picture up on screen, but imagine all of the ice that's, well, it looks like ice, but imagine all of his blue and white color palette on the monster being more dark and red, matching Muzon's theme. So Naruto, he turns into this monster, and then it opens its wide jaw and takes a whole bite out of Shikaku's shoulder. And then it rips it off and sand starts falling down, and Shikaku is thinking, what the hell is this thing? But Naruto, he isn't done yet, and he uses his claws to scrape at Shikaku's stomach, but he blasts a few wind bullets, knocking Naruto back. But Naruto, he knows he doesn't have much time in this transformed state, so he starts charging out Shikaku and jumps into the air and takes a huge bite off of his head and then swallows it whole, and this in turn kills Gaara in the process. So Shikaku's body starts to dissolve into nothing but sand, and Naruto, he goes back to his regular human form, and actually he's a bit shorter and looks a bit more pale than usual because Naruto, he has to stay in this sort of weakened state to recuperate some of the lost energy that he used in that battle. So Naruto, he stays out of the sun and mainly stays in the darkness while he has the people around him take care of whatever he needs. So we switch back to Hiruzen and Orochimaru's fight. And let's just say Orochimaru is not having a fun time. Because Hiruzen, his strength alone is able to destroy whatever the first and second Hokage throw at him. He can punch back the water, he can punch through the wood, like it is nothing to Hiruzen. And these, the reincarnations are thinking, how did he get this strong? I mean, yes, chakra can amplify your strength, but not to this extent. But of course, you know, they can't talk, but that's what they're thinking. So Orochimaru, he's getting pissed off, and then he starts to regurgitate the sword, like the sword that he used against him in canon. And then he rushes at Hiruzen and starts swinging the sword at him. But Hiruzen, he's using his bare palm to block these strikes, like he's some Hyuga or something. And with each strike from Orochimaru's sword, Hiruzen, whenever it impacts with his hand, there's like a blue light coming off of it, and he's just blocking all of these attacks. It doesn't do anything to him. And Hiruzen, he uses his dominant speed and gets behind Orochimaru and uses his hand and just swipes at his head, cutting it clean off, not allowing Orochimaru to regurgitate. But as we all know, Orochimaru, he's just gonna figure out a way to revive himself, realistically. But with him dead, the souls from the reincarnations, they die off as well. Well, not die off, but they start to dissolve and fall over and return to the original bodies of the sacrifices that used to make those reincarnations. So with that said and done, the Leaf Village, it didn't actually sustain that much damage because Naruto, he had prepared for some of the explosions that Orochimaru wanted to go off, but he didn't let that happen. And Naruto, he had someone defuse those, and the Jonin, the Leaf Jonin, they went around, took care of the stray sand villagers. They were no problem to deal with. So while Naruto was at his house regaining some of his energy back from that massive battle that he had, and he had all of his windows blacked out because he couldn't deal with the sun at all. So Naruto, he had a visitor. It was Hiruzen, and Naruto, he was looking at him and said, "Oh, I didn't expect you to be here." And Hiruzen, he wasn't talking and then said, "Right now, you're probably the weakest you'll ever be. And it's finally my chance to take your place." So we left off with Hiruzen coming into Naruto's little apartment, and when he opens the door, he sees Naruto lying in bed and was thinking that this is the best chance he has to sneak up on him and take him out. But Naruto, he got up and said, "Oh, Hiruzen, what do you want?" And Hiruzen, he tried to clear his mind as quickly as possible because he knows that one of Naruto's abilities is to read minds, but it was way too late at this point because Naruto, his ability is basically instant. As soon as you think about it, he knows it. So Naruto, he decides to play along with Hiruzen's little game, and I mean, he did say, "What do you want?" And Hiruzen, he responded by saying, "Well, the other demons wanted to know how you were. They haven't heard from you in a really long time." So Naruto, he says, "Oh," and lays back in bed and says, tell them I'm just recovering. And Naruto says, you can see your way out now. So Hiruzen, he turns around and he's walking to leave, but he just can't, because he came here to completely get rid of Naruto, and he's not gonna leave here until he does. So as Hiruzen is going through the door, he stops and turns around quickly and runs towards Naruto, and he's about to throw a punch at him, but he freezes instantly, like he can't move any of his body parts. And Naruto, he gets up and starts chuckling to himself and said, you really thought you could defeat me? And Hiruzen at this point, he's starting to beg for his life. He's like, no, I was just testing you to see if you were still hot on your feet. And Naruto, he says, don't play dumb with me. I know exactly what you wanted to do, and it was never going to work out in the first place. As soon as you thought of the idea, I knew about it. And Hiruzen says, what are you gonna do with me? And Naruto starts laughing like, is that a question? I can replace any of you at any point. And Hiruzen, he starts begging even more like, please, I'm one of the strongest you have. And Naruto simply says, I can make someone stronger. And Hiruzen's body explodes into blood all over his apartment. And then he says, I'll have one of the demons clean it up. And then he walks out of the building and towards the Hokage mansion. So Naruto, he walks in and starts going straight to Hiruzen's office, but the lady who's at the desk who normally schedules people to see the Hokage, she's like, you can't go back there. She's trying to stop Naruto, and she gets around from the desk she's sitting at and runs and tries to grab Naruto. But as she grabs Naruto's arm, Naruto looks back at her, and the killing intent he sends out sent shivers down this lady's spine. She froze, and Naruto yanks his hand from her arm and he goes to Hiruzen's office, and he takes a seat and kicks his feet up on the desk, and he thinks, if you want something done, it's better to be done yourself. And Naruto telepathically calls the strongest demons he has at his disposal. So right when Naruto does, Sakura along with Guy, Asuma, Kunai, and Ibiki, they all appear in front of Naruto and kneel down. And Naruto said to them, I'm planning a full takeover of this village, and you need to make it as discreet as possible, because if the villagers know, it'll cause a panic. I want you guys to bring me the Leaf's top ranking members, whether it be influential civilians, clan heads, and especially the elders. Bring them by force if you have to. So the Jonin jump off, and Sakura, who's still there, Naruto, he got up and said, how are you liking your newfound strength? And Sakura said, it's alright I guess, I just hate the fact that you can control my every move. And Naruto smirks and said, just remember you work for me. You can live your life, but when I call, you answer. Now go make yourself useful and bring the rest of Team 7 here. So an hour later, the halls of the Hokage mansion are filled with people. They're lining up outside the door leading into the Hokage's office. So first to go in was Kakashi and Sasuke. And when they walk in, they were shocked when they saw Naruto just sitting in the Hokage seat. And Kakashi said, Naruto, what are you doing? You're disrespecting the Hokage. And Naruto said, what if I am the new Hokage? And Sasuke kept silent because Naruto's overwhelming presence, because he can sense it, because he's a demon as well. And Kakashi said to Naruto, okay Naruto, playtime's over. And he went around to grab Naruto's arm, but then Naruto sinked his nails into Kakashi's stomach and made Sasuke drag him over to the next room while his transformation is completing. So this process continues with everyone coming in the room, and Naruto would turn them into demons, creating a small army, but not everyone he turned into a demon would fight. Like the elders and some civilians would just be left to make sure that the civilians have a sense of security, while in fact Naruto is in complete control of their lives. So after this, we would go to the 3-year time skip, and Naruto was a very productive Hokage. And I kind of struggle to call him an Hokage since he has the elders doing all of the Hokage's work for him. But he is providing the Anbu who he turned all into demons. He provides them with high profile missions, and he would go on some of them to create more demons outside the leaf, slowly growing his control over the entire world. And some of these people he did turn into demons would be like the Kazekage and Tsuchikage. So when it comes to the Akatsuki like Deidara and Sasori infiltrating the sand, this fight is extremely one-sided in favor of the sand. The power that these demons get is overwhelming Sasori and Deidara because there are multiple demons in the sand, so they're all fighting and they defeat them with ease, killing them. So this sets the Akatsuki back a lot with the death of these two members. And meanwhile, Naruto is undercover in the land of lightning. He shapeshifted himself to look more like a cloud ninja. So I was reading over this script and I saw that I said he shapeshifted himself to look more like a cloud ninja. So basically he turned himself black. Just thought that was funny. Anyways, back to the what if. So Naruto has been in the cloud for a few weeks now and is finally going to see the Raikage today. So he suits up with his full ninja outfit and he heads to the Raikage's office. And Naruto walks into his office and he sees the Raikage along with B, and Naruto bows, to be polite and says, "Lord Raikage, I'm so excited to meet you." And the Raikage, he's had a long day and he's trying to speed things along and he says, "Okay, what do you need?" And Naruto says, "Well, I just wanted to know if you wanted to become a demon." And the Raikage is like, "Come again?" And Naruto clarifies and he says, "Do you want to become a demon?" And the Raikage at this point, he's had enough. He's like, just get out. I don't know what kind of dumb question you're asking me. Do I want to be a demon? What? So Naruto, he lowers his head in shame, he's acting all sad, and then he turns around, and as he's walking through the door, a hand shoots out of his back, and Naruto stabs his nail into Raikage's chest, and B was shocked, and in that split second, Naruto used his right arm to grab B the same way he did with the Raikage, sending his blood into both of them. And as Naruto stopped, they dropped on the ground, and then he heard a massive explosion. And Naruto goes outside and he sees a member of the Akatsuki attacking the cloud. And Naruto, he has to focus on his thoughts and he's getting telepathic messages from demons back in the leaf. They're being attacked also, as well as the sand and the mist. So Naruto grabs his head in pain and he says, and he's thinking like, how did they launch a simultaneous attack without anyone knowing, without any information leaking? So Naruto, he focuses on the man in the black robe, and then it's Hidan, like Hidan is attacking, but there's someone behind him that isn't an Akatsuki member. And Naruto narrows his eyes and then they widen when he realizes that that's Madara. Yes, Madara is already reanimated. So while Naruto is taking care of that, we switch to Black Zetsu, and he's at the house where Kaguya raised Hagoromo and his brother, and he said finally the seal is about to be broken. And in this, Kaguya's seal works like the Nine-Tail seal, where it gets weaker over time, and it's been like a million? What? It's been 1,000 years, and it's finally weak enough for Kaguya's chakra to seep through. So we switch back to Naruto, and Madara can sense how strong Naruto is, and also Madara at this point doesn't have the Rinnegan, so Madara hones in on Naruto and rushes him, but in a flash of lightning, A comes in with his full cloak on and blocks the attack, and the Raikage is now under Naruto's control, and so is Killer B. So they're both fighting Madara, and it sort of equals out because Madara, he has unlimited chakra, while Killer B and A, they're demons, so they've been amped a lot. So while they're dealing with Madara and Naruto, he is dealing with the real threat Hidan. Since he can't die, no other ninja has the ability to defeat him except Naruto, who allows himself to get cut by Hidan, and he says, "Finally, I have your blood. Now it's time for you to die." And he licks Naruto's blood, and then Hidan pauses for a second, and his whole body starts to be in pain, and Naruto's blood is destroying him from the inside out, because Naruto can will someone into becoming a demon. Like if he gives you your blood, he can say, "Oh yeah, you can become a demon with it," or just no, and you die. So Hidan consumes Naruto's blood, and Naruto is like, "Yeah, you're dying." So Hidan, he's screaming, crying out in pain. Meanwhile, A and B, after beating the crap out of Madara, A summons the Amber Purification Jar, and he seals Madara away since they're never gonna kill him, like he's a reanimation. And with Hidan dead, the Cloud is practically safe at this point. So Naruto gets info from his demons in the other villages that they successfully defended against the Akatsuki. So Naruto, he's going to be returning to the Leaf. So back with Black Zetsu, and Kaguya, the leak in her seal allows her to release some of her chakra, and it manifests into a physical form. And she begins to walk with Black Zetsu, and he begins to tell her all about his plans to get the 10 tails and all of that. And Kaguya is listening to this and then asks Zetsu, "Take me to see the people of this world." Because Kaguya, she's starting to remember the love she had for humans in the first place. She never wanted to harm any of them. So she wanted to get her own view of the human race. So Zetsu, he's a bit confused but says, "Well, okay," and he takes her to the Leaf, because when he's thinking of what's a good example of the entire human race, the Leaf is like probably the best example she'll get. So Kaguya, she's watching from an outsider's perspective and looking at the daily lives of these people, looking at the hard work they're putting in to get through in life. And Kaguya, she's actually starting to feel her love return for the human race. And she just continues to watch for days. And when Naruto returns to the Leaf, she focuses on him because she can immediately sense that he's the strongest in the village by far. So she focuses on Naruto and is watching him throughout his daily life, and she's actually grown quite attached to Naruto. In Naruto, he can sense her presence. He doesn't know where she is, but he can always sense this sort of looming, powerful being over the village. And he was kind of freaked out by it, but seeing that the village hasn't been attacked for days, it's probably something or someone peaceful. So after about a week of looking at the different people in the Leaf Village, Black Zetsu asks Kaguya, like, what is she planning to do? She's been at this for an entire week now. They need to get to their plans, you know, to revive the 10 tails and all of that. And Kaguya is saying, "Why don't we just stay on Earth?" And Black Zetsu is like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, we can just stay on Earth." And Black Zetsu, he doesn't want to go against his mother, but he did just spend the last 1,000 years trying to get her full power back, and now she just wants to live here? So he's a bit confused, but Kaguya, she begins to explain and even show Black Zetsu how these people are living simple lives, and she would like to see how it is also, you know, not living the life as this supreme being. And Zetsu, well, all he can do is agree, I guess. So while Naruto is sleeping one night, Kaguya, she appears in his room, and Naruto, he's immediately alerted by this because Kaguya's just her strength alone alerted Naruto, and then he shoots up out of bed, and then he gets into a fighting stance and says, "Who is it?" And then like his eyes start to adjust to the dark, and he sees this white figure in the dark, and he says, "Oh, so it's you." And Kaguya is a bit confused and says, Me who? And Naruto, he begins to explain this feeling he's had for the past week now. And Kaguya, she's actually impressed that Naruto could pick up on her strength. And Kaguya is like, so you aren't scared of me? And Naruto, he just lays back in bed and says, you've been around this village for a week. If you were gonna attack it, you would have done it long ago. And Naruto, he just goes back to sleep and says, lock the door on your way out. So Naruto, he legit goes to sleep, and when he wakes up, he sees Kaguya still there at his house, actually cooking food. And Naruto, he gets up, he's like, what are you still doing here? And then she's like, oh, I wanted to cook you something. And Naruto looks in the pot, and it's not anything he's ever seen before. It's some Otsutsuki delicacy that Naruto, yeah, as I said, he's never seen it before. So Naruto, he's like, I'm good. I'll just have ramen. So the entire day, Kaguya is chasing this man down like a friggin' schoolgirl, trying to get his attention. And her resilience does pay off, because eventually Naruto starts giving her a bit more attention, and when he goes on different missions, she tags along as well and actually helps Naruto sometimes. So he's like, okay, you might actually be useful. So eventually, after months of trying to get Naruto to fall for her, he kinda does. Like Naruto, he allows her to stay at his apartment, they chill and start getting to know each other even more. And eventually, they make it official by getting married. And it's not anything public, it's literally in Naruto's apartment, because yes, he still lives in that small apartment just like in canon. So Naruto, he would go on to have some OP kids, and I'm talking overpowered. Half demon, half Otsutsuki. I couldn't even make a what if on that. That would be way too OP. Or could I? No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna do that. But anyways, Naruto, yeah, as I said, his kids would go on to become the strongest the ninja world has ever seen. And there will be pretty much no threat that they can't take care of. And since they're both immortal, now that I'm thinking about it, they're like the best pairing it's the best pairing for Naruto, since they're gonna be together for an eternity. And that is where I'm gonna be leaving this one off. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. And if you liked it, like, and if you like my content in general, consider subscribing. And yeah, yo, have you guys seen Baryon mode in Boruto? Yeah, I'm telling you, Boruto is getting lit right now. I might start watching it. I've only seen clips of it. To be honest, it really doesn't look that good. It looks okay at best. It's like B tier in all of Naruto's transformations, in my opinion. It's really not that good. I would say even Sage mode is better, and that's saying a lot. Sage mode is just paint on his eyes. Okay, I'm getting way too deep into this, but yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.